My cousin, Sarah, was obsessed with Indian culture. She dreamt of marrying an Indian man and becoming a wealthy noblewoman. Eventually, she found an Indian boyfriend, Sandip. She started adopting their customs, using her left hand for hygiene and her right hand for eating. I kindly advised my cousin against marrying him, citing the poor sanitation and the low status of women there. I warned her she could be slapped, humiliated, or even beat. But she didn't just ignore me, she resented me, believing I wanted to steal her smelly, curry-reeking, perpetually horny boyfriend. One night, as I slept soundly, she secretly poured Ganges River water into my mouth. I contracted a superbacterium and died. When I opened my eyes, I found myself back on the day my cousin introduced her Indian boyfriend to me. "Lena, this is my boyfriend, Sandip. Isn't he handsome? We're getting married soon, and I'll be moving to India to live. I hear women there are incredibly happy. They don't need to work, just stay home and be noble ladies." The moment I opened my eyes, I saw my cousin Sarah with a sweet smile introducing her foreign lover. He was dark-skinned, thin with the typical Indian appearance. His eyes darted around slyly, and a strange, indescribable odor emanated from him. Not only that, his actions were incredibly brazen. Right in front of me, he used his dirty hand to touch my cousin's butt. My cousin giggled shyly, lightly swatting his hand. "Don't be naughty, my cousin is right here." I broke out in goosebumps. It was at that moment I realized I had been reborn. In my previous life, my cousin had also brought this Indian boyfriend to show off, gushing about their love and fantasizing about her life as a noble lady after marriage. Personally, I believe love knows no boundaries, but witnessing this man's behavior firsthand, I couldn't help but feel disgusted. He truly had no respect for my cousin, yet she didn't seem to care. Foreigners are just passionate like that. This only proves he loves me. Why else would he touch my butt and not someone else's? The result was, just moments later, when my cousin went to the restroom, her boyfriend secretly touched the butt of a passing waitress. He was no different than a rutting dog, oblivious to his surroundings. I was stunned. After returning home, I researched the customs and living conditions in India. I discovered that not only were the hygiene issues terrible, but the men there were also extremely perverse, and the status of women was pathetically low. It was a country incredibly unfriendly to women. Worried for my cousin, I relayed all this information to her and my aunt. My aunt, who already didn't want my cousin marrying far away, became even more resolute in her opposition after hearing what I said. They hid my cousin's household registration and ID, causing her Indian boyfriend's visa to expire, forcing him to return home. Eventually, my cousin reluctantly broke up with him and stayed in our hometown. I thought I had saved her from tragedy, but to my surprise, from that day on, she harbored a deep resentment towards me. She believed I had ruined her romantic relationship. Especially one day, when she saw news of India's richest billionaire holding a lavish, multi-billion-dollar wedding, she couldn't take it anymore. She stormed into my house in the middle of the night, pouring an entire bottle of Ganges water into my mouth, her face contorted with hatred. She gritted her teeth and said, "It's all your fault. You stopped me from becoming an Indian noblewoman, you wretched creature. You're jealous of me, jealous that I found such an excellent boyfriend, that's why you ruined my happiness." The Ganges River water was full of bacteria and E. coli. How could an ordinary person like me endure it? That very night, I contracted a superbacterium and died in agony. Thankfully, heaven had eyes and gave me a chance to live again. This time, I wanted to see, if I didn't interfere, how truly happy my cousin would be marrying that Indian man. After all, for women, that country was hell. Even a passing lizard would clutch its behind and flee. "Lena, my parents keep saying his house is too far, untrustworthy. What do you think?" While we waited for our food at the restaurant, my cousin suddenly asked me. Seeing the expectant look on her face, I knew she just wanted me to side with her, to support and validate her choice. Unfortunately, in my previous life, I seriously considered the issue, listing a string of disadvantages of marrying far away, advising her to think carefully and sympathize with my aunt and uncle's worries. In the end, that advice became proof that I was jealous of her, that I didn't want her to have a good life. Now, of course, I wouldn't repeat that mistake. I smiled and said, "Cousin, what era are we in, still worrying about distance? Air travel is so developed now, you can visit home anytime you want. What's there to worry about? Besides, as long as you and your future brother-in-law truly love each other and live happily, I'm sure aunt and uncle will support your choice too. Indeed, the moment I finished speaking, my cousin's eyes lit up, seeing me as her soulmate. I thought you were as old-fashioned as my parents, or maybe you can help me convince them. I want to get married and have children quickly. Ideally, I can move there next month. So eager to go to India and suffer? Of course, I feigned extreme support. Don't worry, I'll definitely help you. I even casually flattered her. Your future brother-in-law is both talented and handsome. I'm sure your future children will have excellent genes. To my surprise, my cousin actually believed it. She immediately beamed. Of course, finding such excellent genes, I plan to have an entire football team. But after saying that, her eyes suddenly became wary, fixating on me. Lena, I'm warning you up front, this is my man. Don't you dare dream of anything. Otherwise, don't blame me for disowning you. Me, dream of him? I almost vomited my previous meal. Since sitting down, that talented boyfriend, in my cousin's words, hadn't given a single proper glance. His eyes constantly darted between me and other girls passing by our table, a lecherous smirk playing on his lips, as if he hadn't seen a woman in 8 lifetimes. Utterly disgusting. But my cousin acted as if she saw nothing. Did she think everyone was as blind as her, capable of finding this trash of a man appealing? I immediately put on an aggrieved act, feigning anger. What are you saying, cousin? I know my place. An excellent man like my future brother-in-law, of course, only you deserve him. That's good, my cousin grunted, satisfied. Her attitude towards me became friendly again. Not long after, the food was served. Right before my eyes, a scene so horrific that it would be hard for any normal person to accept unfolded. My future brother-in-law-to-be scrunched his face, threw his chopsticks aside, and then directly used his hands to grab the food. The problem wasn't just eating with hands, but that his hands were dark, covered in grime, and his fingernails were unwashed. The dish in front of us was a steaming, spicy boiled meat dish, but he seemed to feel no heat. He casually plunged his dirty hands into the plate, mashed the food, then squeezed a piece of meat and stuffed it into his mouth, his face showing an indescribable enjoyment. My eyes widened in shock. Beside me, my cousin urged, Lena, why aren't you eating? Eat what? All the dishes on the table had been mashed disastrously by his dirty hands, looking no different from a battlefield. Just looking at it made me full. I quickly made an excuse. I ate too much earlier, so I'm not very hungry now. In my previous life, because I was advising my cousin, I hadn't even had a chance to eat before she angrily dragged that guy away, leaving me to pay for 2 glasses of lemon water. I never thought this life, I'd have the fortune of witnessing this horrific meal firsthand. I wondered how my cousin could stand it, but the truth proved I was overthinking. She not only endured it, but actively adapted to the local culture. She threw her chopsticks aside, and her meticulously manicured hands also began to grab food. What's more, she mashed the food just like that man. She even feigned an elegant gesture, pinching her fingers like an orchid, to put a greasy piece of food into her mouth, savoring it rapturously. A passing waiter saw them eating with their hands and thought the restaurant had forgotten to bring chopsticks, so he kindly brought 2 new pairs. To his surprise, my cousin acted as if she had been greatly insulted. What do you know? This is a noble custom of our country. The waiter was speechless and quietly walked away. My cousin and that man continued to display their passionate affection. My future brother-in-law-to-be picked up a bean sprout from the boiled meat dish with his hand, eyes crinkling in a smile, and offered it to my cousin. My cousin shyly gave a sweet smile, opening her mouth to receive it. He chewed a few times as if he had just tasted the most exquisite delicacy, then turned to me and sighed. Indeed, only by eating with your hands can you truly experience the original flavor of the dish. My mouth twitched. Original, indeed. If I wasn't mistaken, I just saw this guy scratch his feet several times with that very hand. My cousin wasn't enjoying the original flavor of the dish. She was enjoying the pure, unadulterated smell of stinky feet. Perhaps thanks to my support, my cousin became even more confident. She immediately went home and publicly announced her relationship on social media, even posting a passionate tongue-kissing photo with that man. The accompanying caption read, "If you knew who he was, you'd definitely be jealous of my good fortune." Her group of friends and relatives immediately erupted. Most of the older relatives, not accustomed to seeing such images for too long, simply offered congratulations or asked why she hadn't announced her relationship sooner. But her peers, seeing the photo, understood immediately. Some couldn't help but comment directly. Who else could it be? Another Indian guy, right? Laughing my head off. India is notorious for bizarre news. Marrying there and calling it good fortune? I advise you to reconsider. As expected, my cousin immediately retorted aggressively. If you don't know, don't talk nonsense. You haven't even set foot in India, how dare you judge whether it's good or bad? Just wait, I'm about to become a noble lady. You poor people will spend your whole lives working for others, and when you see someone else about to be happy, you immediately get jealous. Soon after, she deleted the comments and blocked the friends who dared to speak the truth. Those people were speechless, unable to understand why they were accused of jealousy for simply making a normal comment. A fragile friendship crumbled in an instant. On the other side, my aunt and uncle were furious. They hadn't even agreed to the marriage, yet my cousin had unilaterally announced it to the entire family. That evening, when I got home from work, I heard my mother complaining on the phone with my aunt. How can that girl be so reckless? What if she meets a scammer? And looking at that guy, he's so dark, he's an eyesore. My aunt sighed. No matter what we say, she won't listen, so we wanted Lena to help convince her. After all, she's all alone, marrying so far away. What if something happens? My mother heard this and turned to me. Lena, can you help convince her for your aunt? Me? Convince my cousin? Dream on. In my previous life, she forced me to drink Ganges water, causing me to suffer a severe infection and end up in the ICU. My parents sold all their assets and borrowed money everywhere to save me. But how did my aunt and my cousin's family treat us? Not only did they not help a bit, they didn't even visit. They even hurriedly took my cousin and fled to another city, afraid we would hold them responsible. They even sneered. It's just a bit of water, what's the big deal? Blame your daughter for being too weak. My daughter just wanted to vent her anger. If your girl hadn't ruined her beautiful relationship, we would have been in India enjoying wealth and glory long ago. At that time, my father was so angry he had a heart attack, and my mother's hair turned white overnight. I'll never forget the painful, desperate look in their eyes as they looked at me before I took my last breath. After being reborn, I hadn't even gone to deal with their family with a knife. I had been too lenient. And they want me to help them? Dream on. I only wished for them to receive their karma sooner. But now none of those things had happened yet. In my parents' eyes, my aunt was still family. So outwardly, I still had to show good intentions. I pretended to be conflicted. Mom, cousin is grown up, she has her own thoughts. Even aunt and uncle can't convince her, so she'll listen to me even less, an outsider. Besides, I think parents shouldn't interfere too much in their children's relationships. What if you say something she doesn't like, and she gets angry and blames you? My mother pondered, then nodded. You're right. Finally, she didn't mention it again. I thought everything was settled, but to my surprise, the next day my cousin called and cursed me out. Lena, are you even human? You clearly promised to support me that day, so why did you stab me in the back when you got home? I was stunned. What the hell did I do? What do you mean? What did I do wrong? Hearing my cousin's angry accusations, I finally understood everything. It turned out that over the past few days, my aunt and uncle had accidentally read some negative news about India. They immediately felt it was a poor, backward country rife with social evils. Initially, they were hesitant, but now they were resolutely against my cousin's marriage. My cousin knew aunt had called my mother, so she naturally assumed I was behind everything, pulling the strings and complicating matters. So she was both angry and flustered, calling to scold me. I secretly thought good thing she called. Otherwise, what if aunt and uncle hid her ID and household registration again like in my previous life, delaying this beautiful marriage? No. As someone always willing to help, I can't let that happen, so I immediately came up with an idea, pretending to sincerely offer advice. Cousin, there's a new policy recently. As long as you have your ID, you can go register your marriage. Why don't you two just go register first? Love requires courage to bear fruit. A good brother-in-law like him, if you don't act fast and someone else snatches him, you'll regret it then. My cousin, who was originally still torn between her parents and her true love, felt an immediate sense of urgency after hearing my words. You're right. Love requires courage. I'll go register our marriage with him tomorrow. My objective was achieved. I smiled and said, then I'll wait for your good news, cousin. Just let her and her true love be tightly bound together. The tighter the bond, the harder it would be to escape later. The next day, my cousin joyfully sent me a photo of her marriage certificate, proudly declaring that it was done. I, of course, congratulated her. But what surprised me was that my aunt and uncle, after hearing the news, weren't angry at all. On the contrary, they were overjoyed beyond measure. They excitedly called to brag to my mother, their tone full of arrogance. "Oh, what's the use of Lena being good at studies? She still only earns a few million a month." For a daughter, the most important thing is choosing the right husband. Look at my daughter, she knows how to pick a husband, doesn't she? My son-in-law is a Brahmin noble, so rich he can't spend all his money. Marrying a foreigner is still the best. Later, when she has children, they'll be beautiful mixed-race kids. We can also go there and enjoy life with our son-in-law. My mother relayed these words to me, and I almost choked on my water laughing. It turned out my cousin had fabricated a story for her parents, saying that man was the highest noble Brahmin in India. If I hadn't already investigated his identity, I might have almost believed it too. In reality, he was just a destitute man living in a slum, working as a rickshaw driver, and had already been married with 3 children for a long time. With his vile and lowly appearance, only my cousin and her family could believe this lie. My mother didn't think much of it, only feeling fortunate. Thank goodness we didn't interfere in this, otherwise we might be blamed now. I gently hugged my mother, softly saying, "From now on, our family will just live our own lives." Due to my aunt and uncle's enthusiastic promotion, the news of my cousin marrying a rich husband and having registered her marriage quickly spread throughout the entire family. Some believed it, others were half believing, half skeptical. After all, we had never met the other family, let alone someone from abroad, who knew what was real or fake. Seeing this, my aunt generously waved her hand and announced, "My son-in-law said the wedding will be held in India. Next week, he'll buy plane tickets for the whole family to go there and attend. Any family that has time, hurry and sign up with me." I was stunned. Did that guy find money somewhere to buy plane tickets for the whole family? But others didn't know that. As soon as they heard there was an opportunity to go abroad for free, all the relatives immediately exploded with excitement. Go abroad without paying? What a bargain. A crowd of people surrounded my aunt's house, praising her endlessly. My aunt laughed gleefully, talking excitedly. My uncle's face was flushed with pride, continuously patting the dark-skinned man's shoulder, calling him my cousin's son-in-law, standing proudly in the crowd like a triumphant rooster. "Lena, see? You have to find a husband like mine. You have to choose someone like him to be a real man. Since you helped me with such a good idea, if you can't make a living here later, I can introduce you to my husband's good brothers. Don't say your cousin doesn't care about you." Outwardly, I smiled broadly, but inwardly I just wanted to curse. Damn bad luck, who wants an Indian man? If I had known this, I wouldn't have come to Aunt's house with my parents. My parents originally didn't want to go. They were never interested in these overseas trips. My aunt kept emphasizing, "If your family doesn't come to India, aren't you looking down on my family?" I knew the real reason wasn't that. That year, when I got into a prestigious university and my cousin only got into a vocational college, my aunt's face turned ugly. From then on, my aunt secretly harbored resentment towards my family. Now, with a chance to show off triumphantly, my aunt naturally had to make the most of it. It was a pity they still hadn't realized that everything before them was just a soap bubble. As soon as they set foot in India, their entire family would be officially slapped hard by reality. On the day of departure, all the relatives gathered at the airport. Under my aunt's excited command, more than a dozen people cheerfully boarded the plane to India. Along the way, everyone excitedly discussed their upcoming wonderful trip. Evidently, none of them truly understood India. They still didn't know how much this trip would shatter their worldview. Indeed, the moment we landed at the Indian airport, it immediately gave them a profound shock. A pungent, foul odor assailed everyone's faces. Everyone instinctively covered their noses. "Oh my God, how stinky. Did someone poop right in the airport? No, it can't be just one person. There must be a mountain of feces to smell this terrible." My aunt and uncle were also dumbfounded. Only the Indian brother-in-law remained calm. He even took a deep breath, flashing a sweet smile, and said in broken Chinese, "This is the unique fragrance of my homeland. You can't enjoy such high-quality aroma anywhere else." My cousin, who had been covering her nose, immediately lowered her hand, feigning admiration. Then I must smell it too. After saying that, she excitedly turned to everyone. Everyone, hurry up and come enjoy this unique scent. The whole group's faces twisted, unable to utter a word. Someone among the relatives mumbled, "This stinky smell is killing me. My village's pigsty smells better." My aunt and uncle's faces turned purple, and they quickly forced a laugh. "Come on, let's go to the hotel first." But everyone's earlier enthusiasm had diminished by more than half. Upon arriving at the hotel, everyone was exhausted. Each person only wanted to rest. I walked past a corner of the hallway and accidentally overheard a conversation between my cousin and the Indian brother-in-law. "Honey, this time, the plane tickets and hotel fees were all advanced by me. Didn't you say you'd pay me back when we got here?" "What's the rush, darling? My account hasn't been reopened yet. Wait until after the wedding, all my money will be yours." "Oh, my love, you're so good to me." Their sweet talk was like glue, and I could even clearly hear the sound of lips meeting. I shivered at the sound. As expected, all the expenses this time were paid by my cousin, and that Indian guy was a textbook gold digger, unwilling to spend a single penny. I just feared that when my cousin discovered the truth, she would be furious enough to spit blood. The next day, my cousin excitedly led everyone on a tour, saying she had prepared meticulously and wanted to take the group to stroll through the streets and enjoy local cuisine. Seeing the relatives refreshed after a night's rest, I secretly thought, "You're all about to be disappointed again." Indeed, the moment we stepped outside, yesterday's foul odor assailed our noses again. Some people who hadn't eaten breakfast immediately felt nauseous on the spot. Initially, everyone wanted to try the street food, but when they saw the vendor use his dark hands, picking his nose and scratching his feet, then mixing the food by hand, everyone fell silent. Even my aunt, who had always supported my cousin, couldn't help but take a step back. "Oh my God, so dirty." My cousin remained calm. "Where is it dirty? This is a local characteristic, completely handmade, no chemicals." But unfortunately, no one dared to taste this characteristic. Seeing this, my cousin awkwardly led everyone to eat at a seemingly cleaner restaurant. Everyone was famished, but when the food was brought out, everyone froze. "Huh, where are the chopsticks? How do we eat?" My cousin, having prepared for this, immediately explained enthusiastically, "In India, wealthy people don't use chopsticks. They eat with their hands. That's how you can truly taste the authentic flavor of the food." Saying this, she casually used her hand to scoop up a handful of curry and stuff it into her mouth, chewing with relish, letting the yellow sauce drip down the side of her mouth. She closed her eyes, savoring it. "Oh, it's so delicious. Everyone, hurry and try it." The relatives looked at each other, bewildered. No one moved. But the most terrifying thing hadn't stopped there. A relative, while eating, suddenly clutched his stomach, grimacing in intense pain, his face pale. "Oh my goodness, it hurts so much. Where's the restroom?" The Indian brother-in-law smiled sinisterly, calmly pointing out the window. The relative rubbed his eyes and looked out the window glass, only to see a crowded street full of cars and people passing by. No matter how long he looked, he couldn't see a restroom anywhere. My cousin anxiously shook the Indian brother-in-law's arm. "Honey, why don't you take Uncle to find a restroom?" The brother-in-law cheerfully agreed and led Uncle to the roadside. Then, in full view of all passers-by, he casually dropped his pants, squatted, and urinated right there. From where we stood, we could clearly see his dark, shiny butt and the waist below. This scene truly elevated the level of disgust to a new height. Looking at Uncle, who was clutching his stomach in pain, standing beside him, his face was filled with panic, completely questioning life. But Uncle still had to try and argue with the Indian guy because this guy, seeing Uncle hesitate, made a kind gesture. With one hand still doing his business, he used the other to pull down Uncle's pants, signaling him to join in. Uncle completely collapsed at this point, clutching his waistband tightly, terrified, his face turning pale, fearing that a split-second mistake would disgrace his ancestors on foreign soil. As for us, standing behind the glass, we only wished we could pluck out our own eyes. It was too horrifying. Finally, everyone understood why there had always been a pungent, foul smell on the streets since we got off the plane. But this scene was still too shocking. Living in a civilized society, no one could comprehend why someone would openly defecate on the street. Especially when they witnessed that guy finish, not use paper, just casually wipe his butt with his hand, then pull up his pants as if nothing had happened. The entire family screamed in terror. Now they suddenly remembered that this Indian guy was the precious son-in-law my aunt and uncle had always been so proud of. At this moment, all eyes turned to my aunt and uncle, eyes filled with various emotions: dread, disgust, disbelief. My aunt and uncle were so ashamed their faces turned red, wishing they could crawl under the table immediately. Only my cousin remained composed. She arrogantly explained, "What do you people know? Wiping your butt with your hand is a noble Indian tradition. The whole world wants to learn it, but they can't." As if anyone wants to learn it, the entire family's worldview completely collapsed. My parents quietly pulled me aside and whispered, "Lena, our Sarah wasn't like this before. What happened to her?" I secretly thought it would be strange if she wasn't like this. What normal person would accept eating with their hands, peeing in the street, and then wiping with their hand like that? The meal finally ended. The stinky Indian guy returned to the table. Except for my cousin, no one dared to touch their chopsticks. Everyone stared at his hand, which had just wiped his butt, horror spreading in their eyes. In the end, no one had any desire to walk around anymore. Everyone was utterly exhausted, just wanting to quickly return to the hotel. On the way back, my cousin was completely oblivious to the strange atmosphere around her, still happily taking photos. She was wearing shorts and a tight top, showing off her figure. I wore a long-sleeved shirt, long pants, and a headscarf, and made my mother wear one too. Initially, my mother didn't understand why, but she quickly understood. Along the crowded street, all the Indian men stared intently at my cousin, their eyes full of lust, like hungry wolves. My aunt was terrified, quickly clutching my cousin's arm. "Daughter, why are they all looking at you like that?" My cousin proudly lifted her head, smiling brightly. "It must be because I'm so beautiful, right? Indian women are dark and ugly. How can they compare to me?" After saying that, she turned to glance at me, not forgetting to taunt, "Lena, your clothes are so ugly. Who would want to look at you dressed like this?" I feigned humility. "I'm ugly, so it's safer to dress like this." My cousin scoffed, deliberately puffing out her chest and swaying her hips, clearly enjoying the feeling of being surrounded by dozens of Indian men. It was just a pity she didn't know that a surprise was about to happen. Those men were still secretly following her. My aunt also began to feel uneasy, quietly picking up her pace. But my cousin still walked leisurely, her gait sensually swaying. Finally, an Indian guy couldn't take it anymore and reached out, grabbing my cousin's butt. "Ah, ah, ah, ah," my cousin shrieked, turning around in horror. But immediately after, a group of other Indian men also rushed forward. Chaos erupted. Relatives panicked. My aunt, uncle, and another uncle rushed back to save my cousin. Everyone tried to push through the crowd to pull my cousin out, but unfortunately, too many men were attracted to her. The relatives tried to push for a while but couldn't even reach the inner circle. They could only hear my cousin's piercing screams coming from the center of the crowd. "Help me, what are you doing? Perverts, let me go." My parents also wanted to run to help, but I quickly made an excuse, saying I was scared and held them back. My cousin wasn't worth my parents risking themselves. Moreover, with so many people, I was afraid my parents would get hurt. My aunt and uncle were so anxious they ran in circles. Finally, they thought of finding the Indian brother-in-law for help. After all, he was a local. But when they turned around to look, well. That Indian guy was still calmly standing by, watching the show, completely unconcerned as if it had nothing to do with him. My aunt was so angry she started cursing him loudly, but he remained utterly composed, even loudly scolding. Who told her, a woman, to dress so flashy? Walking outside like that, isn't she deliberately seducing others? It's her fault for making my countrymen unable to control themselves. I haven't even blamed her for being immodest yet. Indeed, he lived up to his reputation as an Indian man. All the negative news from before wasn't wrong in the slightest. In India, women are always in a dangerous state. Even if there's a crack in the floor, they don't dare step on it, fearing they'll be dragged into a pit of hell. These Indian men do wrong things but blame women, thinking women provoke them into making mistakes. How ridiculous. Yet, my cousin longed to marry into this country. Truly stupid beyond words. Eventually, local police passing by intervened and helped my cousin escape the crowd. Luckily, because it happened on the street, my cousin wasn't seriously injured, but being groped and harassed was unavoidable. After this incident, no one had any desire to sightsee anymore. they hastily returned to the hotel. On the way, the relatives continuously discussed, "India is horrible. If I had known this, I would rather die than come here." Exactly. Before, when Sarah's mother said she found a foreign son-in-law, I even felt jealous. Now, thinking back, it's better to stay home. And that public pooping thing. Sarah marrying in here will truly lose face for life. I've never felt so disgusted in my entire life. My aunt and uncle were also frightened. They were too exhausted to say anything now. Uncle no longer had any of the bravado he had when they first arrived. His whole body seemed to have aged several years. My father sighed, pulling my mother and me close, muttering, "Indeed, this is a place I never want to return to in my life." Finally, it was my cousin's wedding day. When they saw the wedding venue, the fake smiles on my aunt and uncle's faces completely collapsed. What the hell is this?" My aunt's face turned pale, and she trembled, pointing to the dilapidated, desolate small village. My uncle also couldn't believe it and immediately pulled my cousin, interrogating her. "You said your son-in-law was an Indian noble. Why are we living here? Wasn't the wedding supposed to be held in a luxurious hotel?" "What kind of hellish place is this? There isn't even a proper road. Don't you see how the relatives are all staring?" But my cousin still appeared sweet and happy. "Dad, you don't understand. Sandip said that according to his family's custom, the wedding must be held in his hometown. After the wedding, we'll move to the capital to live. Then the villa and supercars will all be mine." My aunt and uncle still felt that something wasn't right, half believing, half skeptical. My cousin stamped her foot in anger. "Of course it's true. Don't you believe me, Mom and Dad? I'm your own daughter." Seeing her say that, my aunt and uncle forced a smile and quickly called the relatives to their seats. But immediately after, they got to enjoy another special cultural feature of India. On one side, people were eating with their hands, while right next to them, someone who had just finished eating pulled down their pants and squatted to do their business. The two smells blended together, truly an unparalleled spectacle. The locals were not at all surprised, treating it as an everyday occurrence. Just then, in an atmosphere filled with the smell of curry and feces, the bride and groom officially entered the ceremony. Uncle suppressed his disgust, covering his nose with one hand and holding my cousin's hand with the other, preparing to give his daughter's hand to the groom. But just then, the Indian guy unexpectedly raised 3 fingers, wiggling them in front of Uncle. Uncle was bewildered. 30,000? What does that mean?" The Indian brother-in-law's eyes crinkled in a smile, and he slowly said, "You give me 30 million as dowry, then I'll marry your daughter." The entire family immediately buzzed. Uncle was so shocked he almost fell, trembling as he yelled, "You haven't given me a single penny as a betrothal gift. On what grounds do you demand I pay 30 million? The Indian guy pouted, saying condescendingly, "No, no, no. In my country, women prepare the dowry. Men don't pay." My aunt furiously rushed over, shouting, "This wedding is cancelled. Sarah, your parents are taking you home." But my cousin struggled, refusing to leave. "Mom, Dad, just give him the money. It's only 30 million. After the wedding, I'll become an Indian noblewoman. Why should I care about a bit of money?" Uncle's face was white, breathless. "You still don't realize, this man is a scammer." Not only Uncle, but all the relatives had also seen through this Indian guy. He was no noble at all. But my cousin was still deluded, only thinking about the prospect of becoming a rich noblewoman and enjoying wealth and glory. "No way," she snatched the phone from Uncle's hand, immediately transferring 300,000 RMB to that guy's account. Then my cousin gently flattered, "Honey, I gave you 300,000, so don't be angry, okay? Let's continue the wedding." The Indian guy confirmed the amount, immediately grinning. "Baby, I love you." My aunt and uncle's eyes rolled back and they fainted on the spot. My cousin frowned, softly muttering, "Bad luck. Why did Mom and Dad faint right in the middle of my wedding?" She was about to turn to look at her dear husband to continue her sweet smile, but as soon as she looked up, she suddenly froze. Because that Indian guy was pulling a woman and 3 children out from behind. "Darling, it's time for you to meet them. This is my first wife and our children." You have a wife," my cousin shrieked, unable to believe what was unfolding before her eyes. The Indian guy gave a greedy, mocking smile, looking at my cousin. "Of course, you're my newlywed secondary wife. To be honest, I'm not a noble, I'm just a poor man, but you have money, so from now on you'll take care of my whole family, right?" My cousin's vision went dark. Her eyes rolled back, and she immediately fainted. After my aunt and uncle regained consciousness, they wanted to take my cousin away, but the villagers refused. She married an Indian man. From now on, she belongs to us. They adamantly refused to let my aunt and uncle take my cousin. My aunt and uncle burst into tears, rushing to the embassy for help. But the embassy only sighed, "Your daughter voluntarily changed her nationality to Indian. We can no longer help." My aunt and uncle completely collapsed, especially when they heard my cousin's cries. "Mom, Dad, I regret it. I want to go home. Please save me." Before Aunt could say anything, the Indian guy swung his hand and slapped my cousin across the face with tremendous force. "You stinky woman, go cook for me. Do you want to starve your husband?" My cousin's face was covered in bruises, her whole body trembling. It was clear she had been beaten quite a bit. My aunt wailed, "It's all a scam. Just for the sake of a good life, you destroyed yourself. Why were you so foolish to change your nationality?" But regret was too late. My aunt and uncle could only watch helplessly as my cousin was dragged away, unable to do anything. Even with relatives accompanying them, under the threatening gazes of the local villagers, no one dared to make a move. Finally, my aunt and uncle completely despaired, accepting the truth, and decided to return home with us. The evening before our departure, I returned to my room from my parents. As soon as I opened the door, I immediately noticed a figure standing in the shadows. It was my cousin. She stared at me, her eyes filled with hatred. "It's you. It's all your fault. Why did you let me marry that scammer? I shouldn't have ended up like this. You ruined my whole life." I immediately understood. My cousin had also been reborn, but now everything was set. She was reborn too late. She couldn't change anything. I smiled and said, "Cousin, didn't you blame me in the previous life for not letting you be an Indian noblewoman? In this life, I helped you fulfill your wish. You should be happy, shouldn't you?" My cousin's face twisted with fury, and she screamed like a madwoman. She wanted to repeat her old trick, raising a bottle full of Ganges water, intending to pour it into my mouth. "You bitch, I want you dead." Unfortunately, this life I was prepared. I delivered a powerful kick, sending her sprawling to the ground. Then I snatched the bottle and poured all of its contents into her mouth. "You like giving others Ganges water so much, right? Now taste it yourself." My cousin struggled wildly, but having been tormented by that Indian guy for days, she was covered in injuries and had no strength to resist. As a result, she drank the entire bottle of water, then collapsed onto the floor, her whole body trembling, completely broken. I calmly washed my hands. Then, after waiting for her to develop a high fever and continuous diarrhea, I nonchalantly called an ambulance. Eventually, she died in agonizing pain from severe infection, and I had exacted my revenge from the previous life. The next day, my parents and I happily boarded the plane back home. My aunt and uncle became the laughingstock of the family, having lost their daughter and their dignity, destined to live out their lives in solitude. As the plane landed and I saw our national flag, my parents and I exchanged smiles. Our homeland was still the best. From now on, never go abroad again.